Good morning. I am Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, and I'm the editor and VP of Streaming Media and also the conference chair for Streaming Media Connect. And this is the fourth day of our Streaming Media West Connect. Thanks again so much for joining our discussion about the multi-platform, multi-device challenge. A few housekeeping notes before we jump right in. I'm not going to promise anything anymore, no promises, but we do have Streaming Media East planned to be in person in Boston, May 2022, and more information will be coming out very soon about that. We've also got another Streaming Media Connect virtual event set for February, and you can also look for more information about that event soon, including the call for speakers. So if you are interested in joining one of our panels or proposing a topic, that's the way to do it. Keep your eyes open for that. If you have questions for our panel over the next hour, please put them in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom window. You can put them in chat, but I can't guarantee that I or the moderator will see them there. So it's easier for us to keep track of them in the Q&A. Also, live transcripts are turned on. If you want to turn them off, you can go to the bottom of your screen and click on live transcript and then click on show or disable subtitles. Disable subtitles turns them off, show turns them on, of course. And finally, just for attending, you are registered for a $50 Amazon gift card drawing, and we will be announcing the winner of that gift card before we sign off after the discussion. I'd like to thank our diamond sponsors for Streaming Media West Connect, Conviva, Limelight, Signiant, and Video Guys, and we have video messages from each of them now. Bill.
VideoGuys.com is your source for PTZ cameras that fit productions of all sizes.
Add multiple camera angles to your production without adding operator. Perfect for houses of worship, corporate AV, education, and more. Video Guys offers cameras from PTZ Optics, Bird Dog, Panasonic, and NewTek. Control these cameras using an IR remote, control app, or hardware controller with serial or network connection.
Go to VideoGuys.com or call us at 800-323-2325 for help finding the camera that's right for you.
In this era of streaming video, we are pioneers, helping make your stories more vibrant. Conviva lives in billions of apps on devices all over the world, measuring trillions of data points each day to provide real-time insights for your content, ads, and social. Conviva. Every stream, every screen, every second.
And Conviva is also the sponsor of this panel. Conviva went all in on Streaming Media West Connect, and we really appreciate it. So let's talk about platforms. Let's talk about devices. Let's welcome Chris Pfaff, our moderator, to guide our panelists through those discussions. Chris, how are you?
I am well, Eric, and it's great to be back here at Streaming Media West Connect.
Good to have you back. And I don't want to take up any more time because we've got great panelists and a great topic. So take it away.
Great. Thanks, Eric. And thanks, everyone at Streaming Media. If you're looking at your program, yes, this is the multi-platform, multi-device challenge. And we have four fantastic panelists who will discuss the whole journey of streaming and really planning your content and also formatting on different devices, different platforms. And I will announce them and introduce them now. First and foremost, we have Byron Saltysiak. He is the VP of Video and Connected Devices with WarnerMedia. He joins us today from Chicago. Welcome, Byron.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome.
Great. And we have Rema Morgan-Aluko. She's the Director of Software Engineering with Fandango Voodoo, or for the purpose of this panel, Voodoo. And welcome, Rema. She joins us from LA.
Hi, everyone.
Also joining us from LA is Nick Colsey, no stranger to streaming media. He is the VP of Sony Electronics, and he handles all things for smart TV apps, spatial reality displays, and ATSC 3.0. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Aaron Rosenthal, the aforementioned sponsor of this panel. Thank you again, Aaron. He's the Senior Product Marketing Manager with Conviva, and he joins us today from the Bay Area. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you, Chris. Excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
That's great. I want to start things off by tossing this to Aaron. Conviva has some fantastic research on device performances, behaviors, also on different operating systems. And this will be made available to all attendees, both the slides that you're going to see and a report from Conviva. So I will hand it off to you, Aaron, to go through those slides.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. And again, yeah, I'm super pumped to be here. I think that a lot of the data that I'm about to show is super relevant to this topic. Every quarter, Conviva does our state of streaming reports. These are Q2 numbers. We are actually today launching Q3 numbers, and we can make those available to attendees after this, along with these slides. There's a lot of numbers on these slides, but setting the tone here, I'm going to go through numbers, and I think our sample size is certainly, big enough to have very accurate numbers. Conviva currently has our sensor measuring video content that's running on about 4 billion applications running on devices. We measure 500 million unique viewers across the world, and our processing, our platform is processing roughly 3 trillion data events per day. And so, with that sample size, I think I want to start with just viewing time. This whole industry is looking to capture the attention of as many viewers as possible. And what we're seeing is smart TV continues, quarter over quarter, continues to be the biggest growth area in viewing time. There's some things that have, one thing that has gone down, which is gaming consoles. And as in total, we're noticing that viewing time is up about 13% over last year. So people are watching more content. They're watching more content on their smart TVs. They're watching more content on their mobile phones, but desktops, connected TVs, tablets, still gaming consoles, all are super relevant. They remain devices that people are consuming content on. So as far as global share of viewing time goes, it's pretty consistent year over year. I think things have moved a little bit. For example, mobile devices took 1% additional share over last year. They took it away from smart TVs, but still, as you can tell, about 3/4 of consumption of video content is across the big screen. And big screens make up connected devices, so like Roku's or Chromecast, Fire TV, as well as the smart TV segment. As far as regions go, we've got these stats across different regions. A couple key points here, and I think this is really important, especially for technology teams. In this age of COVID, I think that everyone is in teams of competing priorities. And at the end of the day, knowing where to focus your attention on, optimizing devices, optimizing players. I think that understanding these data in the markets that you operate in is super important. So like in Asia, for example, Android TV in Asia really dominates the market. You can see that at like almost 50%, 48% specifically. In North America, it's more dominated by Roku. Europe, it's fairly well distributed. There's kind of across the big players, Roku, Samsung TV, LG TV, it's all fairly consistent. So I think that this data really just shows that every country, every region is different. there's not one region where one particular device dominates, where it also dominates in other regions. And so understanding this is I think, really good for prioritizing people's workflows on device performance applications that you support and focus on. And there again are a lot of numbers here, but we also measure, in this report, we look at video start failures, we look at video start time, we look at buffering and bitrate. A couple key things in here is that on mobile phones, it's certainly one of those areas where obviously mobile phones are not hardwired. And so buffering continues to be a problem on mobile phones. Not to say it's generally a problem, but it's definitely higher on mobile phones. Gaming consoles, buffering is the best, because I think in a lot of cases, gaming consoles are hardwired, not necessarily working over Wi-Fi. Video start failures have remained the best on connected TV devices, while they are the worst on tablets. And one of the areas where we have noticed, especially in connected TV devices, things like video start failures have improved significantly, over 65% year over year. So some really good stats here, really good insights into what devices, what connected dongles might, what the nuances are within the market across, this huge subset and collection of viewers that Conviva is measuring. I hope that was helpful. And like I said, we're going to share these after this presentation. And I do have new numbers that I'm excited to say that we are releasing today for Q3.
Thanks, Aaron. That's really fantastic to see the state of streaming, and particularly, again, some of the specific issues that you're looking at across device. And again, thank you for sharing that data. And I believe in another 20 minutes, you'll have that data out for Q3. Exciting. Speaking of sharing, I'm going to turn things over to the godfather of the smart TV, Mr. Nick Colsey. And by the way, in 2022, we will celebrate the 15th anniversary of the smart TV. The first ever patent for a smart TV was granted in 1994, but it wasn't until 2007 the HP Media Smart TV SL3760 was developed. That young dashing man on the right there in black, who looks very giddy, that's actually Nick Colsey at CES 2007. So Nick, here we are at this incredible period of growth for smart TV. How do you see it evolving still to become more than a large intelligent display into a Trojan horse for the living room? Is that something we're seeing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, it's surprising that, to me at least, that we've gone from zero install base on this day 15 years ago to to the level of penetration and availability that we have today, where smart TVs really mean are synonymous with TVs in general, and practically every TV that's sold is a smart TV. So where do we go from here? There's no let up in the number of applications and new streaming media companies entering this segment. And of course, advertising has been really revolutionized over the last few years with targeted advertising and ACR and other things that really the smart TV has been leading.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned quite a bit there with respect to addressable advertising. We're also looking at what's happening with the likes of Roku, which is becoming quite a power player on the content side as well. So it's very interesting to see that. And thanks for sharing that little bit of history there as we look forward to that anniversary. I want to continue this great spirit of giving and sharing, and turn things over with a question to Rema. Rema, I wanted to talk about what's happening in virtual and gamer audiences, including, of course, Oculus Quest 2. And it just so happens that Voodoo has launched an Oculus app. This is some recent news, and will become the movie and TV store for Facebook's VR devices. Talk about how you're bringing Voodoo into new audience. I mean, there are those of us like me who watch TV content and films on Oculus Quest 2. But talk about how you're sort of building out the Voodoo brand for Oculus Quest.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so at Voodoo, we want to be on all platforms. We want to be where the consumers are. And we have an amazing experience to work with Facebook and the Oculus team to get our app out there. So our Oculus VR app is an immersive experience where you're kind of sitting in a theater-like immersive view where you're getting audio and you're able to watch movies and TV shows, on that VR headset. We have over a couple hundred titles in 3D, which is another format that I think, people may not be watching on their 3D TVs anymore, but in VR, it's actually a pretty amazing experience. So we're trying to expand and be on as many platforms as we can. We're on all the major TV manufacturers. We're on Samsung and LG and Vizio Smart TVs and Roku. And on Oculus, we're the default movie store for movies and TV shows. So, and we're also the default movie store on Roku as well. But in the VR space, I think we've got a passionate and engaging audience, trying to experience content in a brand new way. And we're trying to deliver that to them at Voodoo.
Yeah, but this is really an interesting, really almost milestone, if you will. I don't want to yet call it a tipping point, but of course, Oculus Quest 2 sold out very quickly during the early days and weeks of the pandemic in 2020. And of course, we're all quite well aware of what Facebook is doing to up the ante in the metaverse. But it really offers you, I would think, an opportunity to do some experimentation as well, and really look at how people are engaging, across these devices and possibly even sharing, experiences. So I look forward to hearing more from you on that. Let's continue the sharing and turn to Byron. For those who don't know, Byron has nothing really to do with HBO Max, but at WarnerMedia, he's got at least 70 touch points that he's responsible for. And talk to us, Byron, about what you're doing to maintain basically performance across an incredible number of apps and devices for WarnerMedia.
Sure. So just to follow up on that intro, yeah, we got that sorted out at the beginning, but my team represents CNN, Cartoon Network, TBS, TNT, a lot of the sports brands like March Madness. So we do get a lot of touch points, as you said. The data that Aaron was showing, I thought was super interesting. It definitely corresponds to my understanding, given that we are primarily in the domestic North America, domestic US, and those are the exact sort of numbers that I was looking at, but looking at the difference across region was pretty mind-blowing. So Aaron, I definitely need to see that report. I guess in full disclosure, we are Conviva users, so that is one way that we keep an eye on our performance metrics and make sure that we are delivering the highest quality we can across everything that we're delivering. And it's also good to see Aaron's report in the growth on smart TVs, because that's an area that we're continuing to invest in, and seeing that is the largest growth area really reinforces our direction.
Right. And I would think, though, particularly you'll see the huge spikes, of course, during, as you mentioned, March Madness. But of course, you're handling the NBA, among other, big sports properties. And I would think that's those are periods of intense focus for you, right?
Yeah, it definitely looks like the scene that you picture in your mind of a NASA launch with you have a room with a bunch of different screens up. Although this year was a little bit different with the pandemic, but generally it's all hands on deck and everyone watching, and it's a exciting time for everyone just to see our stuff go out to millions of viewers.
So let's talk about something that and again, thank you to Aaron for sharing the state of streaming. Android is the dominant mobile operating system, but I'm just curious how Android TV performs with you, and I'm just wondering where there might be more attention paid from Google side or users for how Android TV gains share. Nick, what do you see on that side, having been around Android TV with Sony for a long time?
Yeah, I think if you look at the media, you're going to see the quarterly reports from Roku about how they're doing, and about Amazon, including Fire TV, etc. And you're not going to see a quarterly report about Android TV. So I think that's why maybe Android is not so visible in that regard. But in terms of number of devices worldwide, Android TV is number one. Sony was first to adopt Android TV back in 2015 when Android TV launched. As you can see from Conviva's excellent slides, part of the decision was based on the global adoption of Android in general, and now Android TV. We sell TVs in 200 countries, so we can't really have a localized strategy with a different operating system in North America versus Asia, where we sell TVs in all of those regions. And I think you're starting to see that percolate out to other TV manufacturers as well, TCL, Hisense in the US, and many others overseas. Being a mobile operating system, that does bring a lot of app partnerships directly into the TV platform as well. And I think I'm right in saying Android has the most apps. I think about 5,000 apps available compared to all the other smart TV platforms. And those apps, more importantly, they come to Android TV the day that they're launched. So, when Peacock launched or when HBO Max launched, it was on Android TV that very day, as compared to some other smart TVs where it took up to a year to eventually show up. So, lots of benefits from being an Android TV adopter.
And of course, you're part of Sony, which has a very successful handset, the Xperia, which does very well in Asia, in particular, of course, also the home country of Japan. How much do you get involved in discussions across the broader Sony Android universe?
Yeah, well, funny you should mention that. I'm also in charge of business development for Sony Mobile as well. We have a team here in the US looking after our partners who are based in the US. So yeah, it's very important to us, and there are a lot of synergies working across TV and mobile, and crossover projects going from mobile to TV and TV to mobile. So yeah, it's very important to us.
Yeah. And Rema, you're quite the mobile veteran on this panel. I mean, you and I have been pounding the mobile scene for a long time, and but you were there at Fandango when Android was introduced. I mean, are you seeing what's sort of the performance levels or your take on Android TV from the Voodoo perspective?
Yeah, I mean, from an engineering perspective, and yes, I mean, we've been on the Fandango side, we've been working with mobile technologies since the beginning. But I think one of the great things about Android TV for those who are kind of building their platforms is you can leverage your engineering talent that's been focused on mobile development, and you can shift that over to Android TV development, which is great. So Voodoo, we have apps on Hisense, we have it on the Sony TVs. We could take our code for our Android mobile and tweak it to make it work for an Android TV device. We're on NVIDIA Shield, and it's an expanding audience, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're on as many platforms as possible with the team and the resources that we have, and it's growing. And we can take that one Android TV build and be on manufacturer A, B, C, D, and the like. So I think there's a great future for Android TV. I think that the interface, the tooling it provides, I think is fantastic, and it's an experience that I think our customers love. So I think there's a great future for Android TV in the space. And just to piggyback on something that Nick said, or what you said, it takes time to get an app out, right, on a smart TV. And there are benefits to being able to roll things out a lot quicker on Android TV. So we just want to be.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
so
was
it's
going to
good.
ask you about that. I mean, you know, again, you know, I just love that. I mean, full disclosure, the Samsung 55-inch curve, and I, you know, still love it. But I find that's just such a benefit. You don't have to go through, you know, all kinds of mirroring or God knows what else. It's that immediacy is really fantastic, and of course, you know, with the Voodoo store, I mean, I think that makes even more content available. So fantastic. So Byron, give us your take, because of course you're, you know, managing really a million kind of SKUs there at WarnerMedia. What's your take on Android TV?
Yeah, I think this conversation is really interesting. I mean, my visibility aligns again with what we saw a minute ago, that a lot of the traffic across our brands, you know, first and foremost, is on the large screens, right? Folks dominating on Roku, we see a lot of Fire TV. We do see a fair amount of Android TV, and it's nice, as Rema said, that you know, you can use the same resources to build for a lot of these platforms, and you're not having to learn a whole new set of you know, technologies or languages or whatnot in order to deliver there. You know, one of the things that I found most interesting in the last, I don't know, 12 months or so is there's this war. Rema mentioned like engineering talent. There's this war about, you know, how are you going to be able to utilize the limited resources of developers to get across this large footprint. We saw all the different devices that we need to target now. If we want to get, as she mentioned, you want to be everywhere where you can play video. And one of the things that I've seen in the last 12 months, and actually March Madness did this with their Android and Fire TV app last year, targeted a progressive web app as their mechanism to deploy, which is really interesting to me, because it seems like that is a nice way to get to a lot of different devices. A lot of the smart TVs, as we were mentioning, support basically web technology. So in terms of where you want to put your engineering focus, web technology and PWA seems to be a good way to go, and it supports Android TV as well.
Yeah, and it seems, I mean, you know, once you get the hang of it, I mean, you're, you know, you and Rema and Nick, of course, have to manage a lot of developer talent. I mean, how much sort of forking are you doing, you know, with your WarnerMedia content on Android, and I mean, how much of that needs to be forked or customized?
We do a lot behind the scenes to try to make sure we're not duplicating code from a client side. You know, we've invested in learning, you know, React Native and some of the areas that are designed to try to write once, run multiple places. You mentioned content specifically, we have fully adopted, you know, CMAF as a way to only have one set of assets. Essentially, we still have to, you know, multiple encryption. So, but we're really with one set of assets rolling out to every device, which has been a nice move forward for us, where we're no longer in a HLS and Dash world. Yeah, it's fantastic answer, and thank you for that. Aaron, I want to ask you, as you sort of are the grand vizier of data on this panel. You know, we haven't talked about Apple yet here, so I want to ask you where you see Apple playing on the device side with respect to Apple TV, and any data that you have with respect to performance of even Apple TV Plus content on different devices. I mean, just curious how what you see in sort of the Apple universe for what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so Apple TV is interesting. I mean, Apple obviously gets, you know, a lot of exposure for everything that they do. But in North America, we're seeing, as far as share of the big screen, Apple TV represents 5%, you know, versus Roku's 38%. So it's still small. And that 5%, it's pretty close to about the same in Europe. It is 5% in Europe. South America, it's 2%. In Oceania, it's 8%. So, we're talking small fraction, but obviously I think that, when it comes to Apple TV's performance, I don't have those stats. That's understanding all the engagement metrics across individual devices is something that can be excels, but it's also something that is really important to understand the differences and nuances in how performance, video start failures, and how buffering changes engagement across different devices. But again, Apple TV, I think it shouldn't be ignored, right? It still represents a meaningful percentage, but of course, if you're picking your battles and trying to prioritize, it's a smaller market share as far as the big screen goes.
Right. And, that was, there was a big sort of living room strategy, consumer strategy that Apple started, really it was about 20 years ago. And the first thing that we really saw from that was the iPod. But, one of there are a couple of things that they didn't pursue. One was a storage device and the other was essentially an HD display. And so I'm just curious if you have data or anything that suggests that is something that they might do, or what do you think that might play into?
Yeah, we don't have insights into what they might be doing, but we have noticed, and again, I don't have the specific data points, but there have been improvements in things like buffering, video start failures on Apple TV. It's not improvements across the board. Every device is a little different, of course, and that difference changes quarter over quarter. But I think that Apple TV generally is quarter over quarter performing better. I don't think that there's one particular metric that I know about around where Apple leads everything, but
okay. Byron, what can you tell us about what you see with Apple TV?
Well, I wanted to ask Aaron a quick question around the percentages that you're offering there, which is which metric are you looking at? Because what we see, and I think you had on one of your slides as well, if you're looking at mobile devices, the number of minutes viewed is pretty small. When people are switching around, it's 15, maybe 20 minutes. When you're watching on a big screen, it's 2 hours. So depending on which metric you're looking at, if you're looking at percentage of video starts, it might be, or minutes viewed, it's completely different depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah, so the number I shared were minutes viewed. It's time on the device. So in America, time on device is 5%. Well, of the total time on devices, all devices, 5% of that is spent on Apple TV in North America.
Interesting. I would expect to see that grow. Let's talk about something that I want all of you to get into here, which is UX UI design. And of course, that applies in many different ways with respect to how content is performing on different devices. But it really gets down to engagement and experience. Rema, what sorts of things have you had to do with your team in the last year, particularly during the pandemic, to possibly tweak design? What sorts of stories can you tell us that way?
Yeah, I'm sure all of us here, we've experienced the same thing. We've seen a shift in consumer behavior, and they're really focused on, sitting in front of their TVs in their living room, and they're really focused on streaming. And so that was a major shift, and definitely got everyone rallied around how do we give our consumers a premium experience. And so what we've done, especially with the merging of our Fandango Now and Voodoo platforms, we've kind of given our users a premium experience. So, we've added things like we've expanded our 4K catalog. So we have a lot of 4K shows that are available. That viewing experience is really important. We've also added audio technologies like Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. In terms of how we present the information, our content team, they're putting out different lists of content so that people are seeing and they're able to see quickly, hey, this is what I want to watch today. And even our Rotten Tomatoes brand is building lists on our Voodoo platform so that people can see it. So in terms of like user experience, we're not, we want to make sure we get the information to the consumer quickly. We want to be sure that they know about all these premium features that we have, the different audio, the 4K. So we want to make sure that those are prominent on screen so people know, hey, when I go to Voodoo, I'm going to be able to sit back, enjoy my content, disappear from the crazy of the pandemic and really have a moving entertainment experience, right? And that constantly takes, thought and view as we continue to kind of look at our platforms and figure out what to tweak, what to change, what to test, and try different things as people are kind of dealing with the pandemic.
Yeah, and Nick, the Bravia line, of course, has been around for a while now and continues to grow. What sorts of things have you looked at and are you looking at with respect to UX UI design from both the content and device side?
Yeah. I mean, the focus when a customer goes out to buy a new TV is still really on picture quality. So we're doing as much as we can to make that cinema at home type of experience the best it can possibly be, and that includes things like IMAX enhanced movies, so being able to support a movie theater type of experience in the living room, and promoting our TVOD and SVOD partners on the TV and making it very easy for consumers to find them and to find the movies that they're looking for with with voice assistant technology from Alexa and from Google, of course. TV screens are getting larger every year. 75-inch and above is selling really well. LED walls are coming, and that's going to push these average screen sizes even larger. So it's that cinema experience at home. Not that we're against the cinema, and of course there's a lot of movies where you just got to experience them in a movie theater. But I think if there's anything that the pandemic has done in this regard, it's increasing the demand for a cinema experience at home.
Yeah, and that's quite a different design challenge, obviously, with respect to engagement. But and I'd like to see numbers coming out of this Q4 for at home first run cinema numbers, because I think that they're going to be quite big in terms of what we've seen previously, which is kind of de minimis. But again, pandemic at home viewing. So Byron, I mean, again, you and your team are knee deep in considerations for all different touch points and devices. But I mean, are there specific things, and I think this has probably become more intensified by the pandemic, that you've had to look at in terms of UX UI design?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to touch on, and then I'll touch on the pandemic effect, was when we first went out of the gate with a lot of the different devices, there was this push from product and the different brands to have UX be consistent on a brand by brand basis. So it was a lot of custom controls that they would want to have, iOS look like Android, look like Roku, which is overwhelmingly not a great idea. It's definitely, you should embrace the native controls. That's what consumers expect. Going from one app to another within their ecosystem, they want them to look and feel the same way and behave the same way. So that would be one thing. When you said UX, that was the first thing that popped in my mind, is don't fall into that pitfall. From a pandemic point of view, we did go through some interesting innovation in the last 18 months around things like we started doing virtual premieres, where you would have new content coming out, and normally you would throw a big party and you'd invite all the actors and their family or whoever, and we couldn't do that anymore. So like we had to start inventing new ways to showcase new content, and I anticipate that will continue post-pandemic. They will still have the big party, but for folks that can't be there or want to share with other, so we will see that continue. We saw a similar effect on one of our brands. We support the DC brands, and we created this Fandango experience where instead of users coming into, again, a physical location, creating a experience for them where they can feel part of the brand and part of, all the excitement there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned about, what you need to do to support, obviously, film rollouts. There were a couple of great virtual experiences I had last year. One was for Judas and the Black Messiah, had a live and as opposed to recorded Q&A and hip hop party, which is fantastic. I'd love to see more of that, frankly. I mean, this is just for industry, but that's the kind of thing that I think that consumers can jump into as well. So, Aaron, I mean, you at Conviva are measuring all sorts of data points with respect to streaming. I mean, how much are you measuring what people are doing on UX and UI side of the house?
Yeah, so I mean, the core of what we measure is everything that happens when you press play. But we also we ingest custom app events, and we're looking, there's a lot of plans to really flesh this out and build out capabilities to have more understanding of what happens from when they open the app to when they press play. But today we look at these custom events and we look at how many titles would they be shuffling through before they get to the content that they press play on, or how effective are content recommendations based on these custom events that our customers send to us. I think that what Byron said is totally true, which is that you need to embrace the native UX of the devices. Which means that you need to understand what the differences are between all of the devices so that your product teams can, be aware of that. I also think that something that sometimes might be a little overlooked is even the remote controls of different devices, because some of them have different functionalities, different interactions. Apple TV has a swipe, and then they just came out with a new click wheel. So I think that those are also things that do need to be understood and optimized for in players. But it's a big challenge, right? Because there are tons of these devices. There's many different versions, right? Because not everyone has always the most up-to-date version of a specific player. So you got to make sure all of them work, and it is a challenge. But by being able to properly measure what happens within your app, what the interactions are, that's the only way that you're going to understand and be able to optimize, right? Further engagement, because at the end of the day, the more people engage, the more people watch, the more money we all make.
Amen to that. And I wonder, I referred at the top when I prompted Nick with this historic photo from CES 2007, basically talking about the smart TV as sort of a Trojan horse. But I think the real Trojan horse, and we've seen this year over year, but particularly during the pandemic, is really the gaming console. And of course, Nick's company has something called PlayStation. Not the only console, as we know. And but Rema, I want you to talk about what you're seeing with gaming consoles, because of course, more than just games, obviously, and I'm just curious as to what you're looking at, particularly now with Voodoo, as far as where the gamer and the console behavior comes in.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing customers on every platform, and the gamer also wants to escape. The gamer also wants to have this other experience. In the pandemic, we have entire families who are at home. We've got kids at home, we've got moms and dads, we've got uncles and grandparents, everyone's in the house right now. And, that game console, that was used for, all these different games is also being used for entertainment. And so for us, we're on PlayStation because that's where our movie fans are. And we're seeing a lot of engagement, and very similar to even, Oculus, as we mentioned earlier. It's a gaming audience that's really looking for new ways to consume content, and we've got to be there. And so we've made sure that we provided that opportunity on PlayStation, on other gaming platforms, and we're seeing that audience grow every day. It's a priority for us to continue to support that and maintain that, and also, make sure we push these unique features that we might have for our different customers. We have a disc to digital program, so your DVDs, you can convert them into digital content that can be available to watch on your PlayStation TV. And really, customers have so many ways to watch, right? And so their gaming console is another avenue where that premium content's available. So yeah, it's a big focus for us.
I love the disc to digital concept. That's just bravo on that. It's fantastic.
Hey,
Byron,
Chris,
go ahead. Yeah,
I
go.
just want to add one thing that we also really, what we are seeing on gaming consoles specifically as a growing use case is live streaming gameplay, right? So besides consuming your own content, it's things like Twitch, but also natively doing it on site within gaming consoles is a big thing that is growing.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that, obviously. I mean, we've seen the evolution, from Justin TV to Twitch and what YouTubers are doing. But I think that, another part of this conversation, and just to append to what you're saying, of course, is TikTok is coming to a big screen near you. And I would expect that Snap would follow, and many others. I think it largely goes back to what Rema was saying about this sort of digital living room strategy. It's sort of a why not? Why wouldn't you be there? Particularly, if you've got that connectivity. Byron, I would think, particularly with March Madness and some of the other things that are in your purview, that the gamer and the gaming console is something that you and your team are looking at, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Nick and I were talking offline before this about PlayStation as well. One thing I was thinking as we're going through the utilization by platform and how there is a regional difference there. There's also a difference, of course, in the type of content that you have. So we saw a decline on consoles from what was presented earlier. That's not what we see, for instance, on Cartoon Network or on Adult Swim or some of the brands that are in those markets. And, if you looked at something like a CNN, you may see more of a decline there. So you really have to think about your market and your brand before just looking at, Apple TV is only 5% or whatnot. There may be differences based on your target audience there. And we definitely see that between, as you said, sports, kids and young adults very interested in consoles, and specifically what we want to get on PlayStation for, and entertainment and news are not as interested in those areas.
Yeah, and Nick, and those watching, there are other consoles besides PlayStation, including something called Xbox. Nick shakes his head. Yeah, obviously, Nick, you're certainly, I mentioned Xperia before, but of course, PlayStation, I would think that that's something that you're taking a heavy look at in terms of how viewers, users, engaged audiences are going even between the devices.
Yeah, one of our big marketing messages for this holiday season, at least in the US, is, Sony TVs are the best for PS5. We have the features like variable refresh rate, VRR, to get the very best out of the HDMI signal from a PS5, and low latency, and all the features that you expect from from a TV that was built by the same company that makes PS5.
Sorry, I was muted for a second. You took my breath away, obviously. Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant marketing line, and very Sony, having represented Sony Electronics many years ago. But I think that, this idea of trying to condition people to look at multi-device and even multi-platform with the big screen involved. I think we've seen a couple of things recently, and I wanted to touch on this. And Aaron, I want you to speak to this first. Comcast recently unveiled Sky Glass and XClass TV, which are two affordable, innovative smart TV plays for audiences. Do we see this as an indication that the larger display could become a bigger focus for larger media firms, or is this just one part of a multi-device strategy? And Aaron, I want you to talk to that first.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely one part of a multi-device strategy. I think that if you can own the experience on, the TV itself, I think that it gives you a lot of benefits in being able to optimize your performance directly, right? Because if it's your TV, if it's your SDK, if it's your apps that are running on your stuff, it's obviously going to be tuned to run better than if you're reliant on other platforms that you're just living inside their ecosystem. So I think that it's how you could deliver the best experience because you control that aspect of the smart TVs. But I'm all of us at Conviva, we're really anxious to see what that what that looks like and how that plays out.
I mean, I look at it, to me, it's kind of like Back to the Future. Comcast is sort of looking at this, like RCA Sarnoff would have years ago in terms of introducing new shows and watching color TV. Comcast, by the way, for those who haven't kept score, is the parent company of NBC Universal, which owns Fandango, Voodoo. So there you go. Rema, I mean, what's your take on this? Obviously, technically part of your corporate domain.
Yeah, so we're really excited about the XClass platform. Voodoo is the default transactional service on XClass as well. So it's important for us to kind of be everywhere, right? And I think that as we're looking at XClass, we're also looking at Roku. This native experience that's kind of built into this device that you buy, or this 10-foot device is, hey, customers are looking for an easy way to get to their content. They're looking for a way to find the movies they love very quickly. And it's important for us to, be great partners with that and expose that content on those platforms. We're also the default store on the Roku platform as well. So whenever customers are kind of looking for, just recently, the top film that people were buying, for Halloween was Addams Family 2. That was a great film, and that was big on the Roku platform. And I think that we're going to continue to see other companies build these types of experiences and these types of gardens, trying to find a niche for themselves outside of just the normal smart TV landscape.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, Comcast being a major MVPD and of course one of the largest ISPs, that makes good sense. And getting back to you, Nick, of course, Sony pushing Bravia as the ideal perfect choice for PS5. I mean, what's your take on what Comcast has done? I mean, do you see, can we see a more affordable Bravia maybe coming down for Christmas?
I don't think so. I think we're focused on a different part of the market. For the last nearly 10 years now, we've been exclusively focused on the premium segment of the TV business in most countries around the world, especially in the US. Of course, we wish Comcast all the best with what they're doing with Sky Glass and with XClass in the US, but it's really addressing a different segment of the market to what we are, I think.
Fantastic answer. Well said. Byron, what's your take on XClass and Sky Glass from the WarnerMedia side of the fence?
I mean, I agree with Aaron. I mean, it's definitely an area that we need to get to if that's going to be a growth segment. But right now we don't have any plans that I'm aware of.
Good. Well, so we're running out of time, and please, if you have questions, I don't see any, but out there we've got a good audience. I've got one big question that I kind of want to wrap with here, and that's essentially, it's not as existential as it seems, which is, does the device matter at all. If autonomous vehicles become the entertainment center of the future, as I predict they will be, and my Samsung refrigerator already syncs with my smart TV, is the ecosystem the thing, not the device itself? Aaron, you see a lot of things, and can you give us some thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that it's the answer to that depends on if you're looking at it from the perspective of the consumer versus on our end, and you know, the logistics of supporting all those different devices, right? I think that from the consumer's perspective, device doesn't matter, right? You need to be everywhere. Like the expectation is that they can get their content on whatever device that they want. And so in that case, device doesn't matter. But then for us, you know, to be able to deliver a quality experience across all those devices where the device itself doesn't really matter for the consumer. I mean, consumers have their own device preferences, but I think that it is split, you know, and we've already talked about it. There is still the demand and the need to support all these different devices. You know, it's become, you know, the nature of the beast. I think that if you look at like omni-channel as something that has expanded, it's like companies first were like, yeah, we'll support phones. But then now we're at this point where like you have to support every channel. And the same thing has occurred with the devices that we consume content on.
Yeah, and by the way, as you were speaking, as you, Aaron, were speaking, Alexandra Siebold just posted the Conviva Q3 State of Streaming Report, and we have a nice link there in the chat line, so please go and download that. So Nick, you know, I love that you talked about LED walls, because of course, if we're having this conversation 5 years from now, LED walls, possibly the idea of interacting with some kind of hologram avatar, possibly even from a Sony Pictures release, who knows? I mean, but you know, do you see that side of it? I mean, both from the consumer not really caring. I certainly don't, you know, but what's your take in general?
Yeah, no, I think people are fascinated by this idea of a TV filling their entire wall of their living room. So yeah, and I think that's you know, that's coming for sure, and you know, it'll start at the kind of 1% end of the market, but definitely cascade down, and conventional screens are getting bigger. You know, we have 100-inch set right now for you know, a fraction of the price that it would have been just 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, that's all happening, and you know, I think the living room is still the place to be as far as entertainment is concerned. Yeah, you can utilize the cloud to you know, to view that same content in other places, but including vehicles. But I don't think you spend 4 hours a day in your car, or if you do, you're insane. So
well, you live in LA, so you guys spend a lot of time in your cars. Let me tell you, buddy, from a New Yorker's perspective, not that much. Okay, well, I will tell you this. You heard it here first. In 10 years, you may see a Sony car on the street, and it's going to be the sickest entertainment center you've ever seen. Mileage, not so great. But we'll leave it right there. The godfather of the smart TV gets the last word on the multi-device, multi-platform challenge, but not without great contribution from Byron Saltysiak, WarnerMedia, Aaron Rosenthal, Conviva, Rema, Morgan-Aluko, Voodoo, of course, the godfather, Nick Colsey from Sony Electronics. And back to Eric.
Thank you very much, everyone. That was terrific. Great job moderating and great job answering. That seems like I could have come up with a better word than that, but here we are. Again, and thanks to our sponsors, Conviva, Limelight Network, Signient, and Video Guys for sponsoring Streaming Media West. The Amazon gift card winner is Mark Beckwith. So Mark, keep your eye open and watch your email for that. And join us again in about 30 minutes when we're going to talk about the skinny bundle and why it might not be so skinny anymore. See you then.
Thanks all.
VideoGuys.com is your source for PTZ cameras that fit productions of all sizes.
Add multiple camera angles to your production without adding operator. perfect for houses of worship, corporate AV, education, and more. Video Guys offers cameras from PTZ Optics, Bird Dog, Panasonic, and NewTek. Control these cameras using an IR remote, control app, or hardware controller with serial or network connection.
Go to videoguys.com or call us at 800-323-2325 for help finding the camera that's right for you.
In this era of streaming video, we are pioneers, helping make your stories more vibrant. Conviva lives in billions of apps on devices all over the world, measuring trillions of data points each day to provide real-time insights for your content, ads, and social. Conviva. Every stream, every screen, every second.